Hi, I'm Martin Sutton. Welcome to This Is Effing Hard, a podcast where we'll share the realities of what it's really like to scale a tech business. Our aim is to be the opposite of all the high-fiving and backslapping we see on LinkedIn every day, which can sometimes make us feel inadequate and leave us with that sense of feeling that we don't actually know what we're doing ourselves. Today's guest is an absolute cracker, as he's taken a non-conventional career route to becoming a tech founder, which we'll hear about shortly. So without further ado, please welcome Ben Sweeney, founder and CEO of VidiVet. Hi, Ben.
Hi Martin, nice to see you, mate.
And you? How's tricks? How's your summer? You been anywhere good?
Yeah, it's been good actually. I followed the truly traditional ginger path to summer, which is look, there's a cloudy day, let's get out with the kids. And unfortunately, there's not been many of them this summer. So
No, no.
it's been good. We've had a week up in North Yorkshire, running up and down hills and various different bits and pieces with the kids. But it's our first, as my little boy started school last year, so this was our first kind of dipping your toe into the water of
Nice.
survival
Yeah.
of the summer holidays as a parent. Go right, who's got to be here then? And then it's like, but yeah. So
I
and
remember those
typically
days. Well,
first day back at school today, and he's sick. So,
oh,
so yeah, first day back at school tomorrow, all being well.
oh, good. So I'm glad he survived it. Tell everyone a bit about VidiVet, what it does, and the problem it solves, please.
Yeah, sure. So, VidiVet is, in its crudest and simplest form, an app that gives pet owners immediate access to a vet 24/7. And for the vast majority of people, it's free of charge at the point of use. Meaning that, no matter how big or small their query, what time of day, they get an answer in an average of 6 minutes that's comprehensive, it's personalized, and it's specific to them from a real vet, and
Cool.
helps them to decide, do they need to go to the vet? If they need to go to the vet, what kind of time frame they need to go in? What might they need to take with them? What can they expect? Um, so for us, it solves kind of two sides of a coin of a problem. As a profession, we are chronically understaffed. We've been quite impacted by Brexit in that we used to rely on a lot of people coming into the country to operate as clinicians, but also pet ownership boomed, especially in COVID. And there's then quite a significant mismatch
Yeah.
between pet owners and vet numbers. So catering to the demand for advice and services has become a bit of a challenge. So we kind of sit in the middle ground of working with clinics, working with pet owners, and bringing the two together.
Brilliant. Would you say for the layperson, would you say it's kind of a similar concept to something like a push doctor, but for pets, like from the
Yeah, similar. It's interesting. Like people have described it as different things over the years. Like, some have described it as like an NHS 111 type thing in terms of the
yeah.
level of convenience. I'm going to be perfectly honest and sorry for anyone at NHS 111. We're
Oh,
probably a
it's way
little
better
more
than that.
advanced.
Yeah.
I was going to say you've used it,
I've
it's
used it. I'll
it's
give, yeah, I'll give you a free plug to anyone that says it's absolutely amazing. And I said to you, I contacted you straight after and said that's just blown away all my expectations from having a problem with my dog, doing a quick video and getting a response within a couple of minutes that was unbelievably comprehensive and helpful. Yeah, superb service.
yeah. I think for us it's kind of like essentially it's just it's a funny thing. People say, so it's, what is it that you're selling? It's like, well, peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Peace of mind to pet owners, but also peace of mind to veterinary. Obviously our business is predominantly B2B.
yeah.
So, it's peace of mind to the clinic owners as well. Like, we're helping you to close that loop on client communication so that they're getting the right advice, so that they're not coming to you having done something daft and,
Yeah, no.
done the wrong thing with their pet. So for me, ethically, it does the right thing in the right way. But of
Superb.
course, I'm
How
biased because I'm a vet.
how long you been going as a business?
So we started in March 2020, which is an ideal time to
Yeah,
be engaging to pet owners, a slightly less ideal time to be engaging with a load of vets who
yeah.
were operating really under the cosh. But yeah, so we're five this year, which is
Big milestone.
yeah, big milestone. It's gone very, very quickly and very, very slowly all at the same time.
Yeah. And are they 5 years or 5 dog years? Do you have like a difference?
Well, so yeah, this is one of my things. It's like, well, my dog is still only 4 years old. There's the human years, dog years, the same thing. We've still only done one lap of the sun. I've never
Yeah.
yet met a 48-year-old Labrador. Um, but yeah,
And
no. So
have you got any numbers you can share with us in terms of the business, number of pets, vets, that
yeah,
sort of thing?
sure. So we've got around 150,000 pet owners registered. We've got
Wow.
around 200,000 pets. We have done over 500,000 interactions with pet owners. Um,
Superb.
yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, and I think to anybody in the early stage, you sort of look at these kind of numbers, go, oh my God, they're insane. And we have a growth curve, and it's nice to see that hockey stick. It's doing what it's meant to
Yeah.
be doing, but I think people get drawn into that. Like, for the longest time, we had 1, 10, 20,
Yeah.
100, 1,000, but we did our biggest bits of learning in that window.
Yeah.
So yeah, some nice punchy numbers now. We're cash generative as a company, which is
It's
almost,
amazing.
a sin as a startup, and
Not
we've gone
anymore.
into that. Well,
Yeah, it
that's
used to
it.
be a sin. Not anymore. It's something
Yeah.
very popular, isn't it? Very
Well, yeah, all of
fashionable.
a sudden it's like we don't need to raise, which
Yeah.
is a nice problem to have.
Super. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah.
So as I touched on in the intro, I think you've had like a non-conventional route into becoming a tech founder. So let's just tell everyone sort of where you started out in your career.
Yeah, so I'm a vet by background. Um, And the benefit of that for me is that it obviously gives me a huge amount of sector expertise. I was an equine
Yeah.
vet for 6 years, and then I retrained in companion animals, so small animals, domestic pets, and whatnot. So I did that. I set up my first startup, which was very much a lifestyle business, a careers platform in 2016. Sold that in 2019 via a trade sale. And as anybody who's got that entrepreneurial bug will know, unfortunately for my wife, it sort of whet my appetite for entrepreneurship. And that background and that sector expertise and the knowledge and my previous sort of, dabbling, if you will, in business, um, gave me that opportunity to sort of go to invest and go, I've got this idea.
Yeah.
I think it's got legs. And
No pun
obviously then it
intended.
gives you the credit. Well, hey, it gives you the credibility.
Yeah. But how did
And yeah,
just talk me through though that sort of like I don't know whether it took place over a couple of months or whatever, where you went from being a vet practitioner to I want to set up my own business. Did it happen quickly or like what? How did that come
so
about?
I think, I mean, if you look at the veterinary profession, there's an awful lot of veterinary professionals who, it's a private
Yeah, run their own
enterprise. A lot of
practice.
people are business people. They own businesses. They run very successful businesses.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, I've always had anyone who knows me will know I'm a moderately walking advert for ADHD. That sort of inquisitive mindset of like, problem solution, ideation, and sort of going, oh, what can go on here? And I think for me, uh, it feels negative when you say I see a profession with a load of problems.
It's an
But
opportunity, isn't
actually,
it?
there's an opportunity in every problem. And I
Yeah.
think, you can't fix every problem, but if you have that focus to go, right, I'm going to focus on this particular problem right
Yeah.
now. That's what I did with my first business, and then that exited, and, similar concept with this one. So I don't think there was ever I want to shift from this to this. I
Yeah.
think it was I'm recognizing this that has created the opportunity to do this. And again, really, I'm truly blessed because the profession I chose allowed me to do the two alongside one another,
Yeah.
and work clinically whilst dabbling in seeing if this idea was a thing. And obviously, as
Superb.
it's grown, we've transitioned into, me now becoming a CEO, which is, an interesting transition, but here we are.
So tell us about. So you're one of the very few rare people that's had a successful exit that then sets up another business. I meet a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, first-time founders. So tell us a little bit about when you set up VidiVet as a second-time founder. I'm guessing I could be wrong. You possibly had like a list of things in your head or on a bit of paper that said, "This time round, I'm not going to do these things." Maybe were there any or learnings
I
from one to
think
two?
I think it wasn't so much I'm not necessarily not going to do this and I'm going to do this. I was like, this time round I want to do something that creates a bigger impact. Perhaps selfishly I looked at this as an opportunity for me to leave a lasting legacy
Yeah.
on a profession that I adore. And obviously with the way that VidiVet has grown and evolved off that, it can have a positive impact on both my professional colleagues and those we serve, in terms of dealing with pet owners and clinicians
Yeah.
on the front line. And to be honest, I think very few people get that opportunity in their lifetime in any profession, let
Yeah.
alone the opportunity to do it twice. I think some would look at it and go, "You're flipping mental doing a startup twice," and they may well have a point, because it's
Not
a
so.
process that ages you rapidly. But yeah, I think the reality is I didn't want to do it alone. And I think having done it with this business, should I ever do another one again in future, that
Yeah.
would again be my biggest thing is
Yeah.
I
Cool.
would want to do it even more so with other people moving forwards because that
Yeah.
shared journey.
It's really good actually because it's pretty obvious just listening to you. This is a passion for you with a very strong purpose. It has a very strong VidiVet has a very strong mission attached to it that's very serious and impactful. And it's great that you can achieve that and hopefully make a few quid as a result of helping millions of people. So it's like win-win. So let's get into VidiVet. So early days of VidiVet. Talk us through like how you went from I've got this idea to actually getting any traction, and how did you get the first few people to join your team?
Yeah, so we went through a co-foundry model. As we've said, I'm a vet. Strangely, I didn't have a tech infrastructure behind me. Didn't have people that I could lean into from a product insight. So we went through a co-foundry model, and I have to say, VidiVet wouldn't be what it is today had we not gone through that. And again, as a founder, I think you have to have that humility to
Yeah,
go, this is what the initial idea is, but actually the end product is probably going to be significantly different to that. It may well, we I suppose have been fortunate in that it delivers what we wanted to do, but it does it in a very different way. And that is as a consequence of the product team that we've had, of the tech
yeah,
team that we've had, and post kind of product launch, the vet team that we brought in. I mean,
yeah,
this doesn't scale as just me sat in my office answering people's questions 24 hours a day. We've got a broad range of expertise and knowledge off the back of that. And again, through COVID, there was a very obvious challenge to pet owners of getting into the clinic. So it was, to an extent, quite easy to attract people into. Do you want to have a little try of this and see how we can help you and how you can help us to shape the product?
yeah.
Um,
Cool. What's your thoughts on? Because I hear this conversation pretty much every week. Early stage business, pre-revenue, is doing some of the things that you wanted to do. They need to build a product, so they need some additional hands on deck to help with that. And then they have a conversation. Somebody will turn up and go, "I can help you with that through whatever means. Maybe I can be an advisor, or I can give you some fractional help." Da da da. I know you've no money, but so I want a share of your business. Like, how does that make you feel as a founder? Do you think that's a good thing to consider, or would you advise people to sort of say, "Nah"?
I think there's two ways of looking at it, and kind of people always look at it and go, "I want to keep 100% of something." It's like, well, 100% of nothing is worth nothing.
Yeah,
25% of something that's worth 100 million is 25 million. And you can cut it both ways. I think there's definitely a rationale for keeping hold of as much as you can in the early stages, and trying to mitigate for that loss of
yeah,
control. I think equally, kind of when you're starting out, you potentially kiss a few frogs. You've got people in your midst that are challenging, and certainly know plenty of other founders that have had challenging investors, challenging environments, that they're trying to deliver growth in, and also mismatched expectations. Actually, do
yeah,
the people that you're taking money from, and do the people, do they share your vision, or are they just looking at making a few quid? And
yeah,
not everybody is going to be fully on board with the mission, nor would you expect them to be, because like they're almost a passive
yeah,
entity in that. And I think that's where, it's interesting. People, whether it's friends and family rounds or angel rounds, um, I always encourage people to start their fundraising journey in that
yeah,
sector. Now, again, I'm fortunate in that we've got some very, very good angels that have got a lot of sector expertise. So it's not just my ideas, but bringing people that have knowledge in and around the subject matter and can add value now, but also 2, 3, 4 years down the line. What are their networks like?
yeah. How does that angel stuff work for you in terms of like taking money from people that you probably know, So it possibly goes from like a friends family transaction to a business transaction. Did you
Yeah.
find any of that tricky? And then in particular, the valuation, because the valuation's the thing that always comes up, doesn't it? Like, if I'm going to give you this, what percentage have I just got?
I think it boils down to open and honest communication. And
Yeah,
again, it's much more difficult to put a value on something pre-revenue, and obviously increasingly nowadays it's even harder to put a value on something. Indeed, you're seeing fewer and fewer companies that are pre-revenue raising, or at least raising decent sized rounds that give them 18 months, 2 years worth of runway. Um, I think really, and again, it sounds like a cop out of an answer. It's having open and transparent conversations with people and just sort
yeah,
of saying like, look, this is where I want to go. Ultimately, any investment you're taking from somebody, you do feel culpable for. You
yeah,
carry that cross with you. Um, but ultimately, it's their decision as well. They've chosen to give you that money. And anybody that makes an investment knows it's a risk, especially in an early stage business. And you've got to get comfortable with the fact, well, look, I've told you my story. I think as long as you stick to that story,
yeah, yeah,
that and we've had to pivot a couple of times and sort of take different angles. But in doing that, there's been an appropriate flow of communication with those investors. This is why we've made that decision. This is an informed choice around that. And I think flow of information is key with all
yeah.
that. And I think as long as you maintain that and you maintain that integrity, then you can't really be accused of doing anything wrong. It might not work,
Yeah.
but have you done anything wrong ethically? No. Um, but yeah, I guess we're fortunate in that, we're still going and we're going well.
Yeah.
So our investors are happy and hopefully long may that continue.
You're right. From an investor side of the table, I think open communication, integrity, honesty just solves any problem. You can all afford to go through dips and problems, but as long as everybody's chatting and trying to figure it out together, it's all good.
Yeah.
There's probably nothing worse, I would imagine, as a founder, overpromising, massively overpromising, knowing you've overpromised when you actually it comes out your mouth. Everybody latches onto it, and then you're like, "Oh, we're never going to be able to do that. It's just a ticking time bomb, this, and we're goosed."
Yeah. And I think it's that, and it's the hardest part. Sometimes you have to make really hard decisions in order that you retain your cash flow, and that
Yeah,
is, nobody likes doing that,
yeah.
but it's one of them critical things to learn. In that, look, if I don't make these decisions, then the business goes bust.
Yeah.
Um,
So
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 yeah,
we've got a gist then of the early days. So some angel support. There was somebody who was able to help with product development. So you've kind of got that off the ground. You've built your MVP. Talk us through what happens next for you, and how did you get some revenue through the
yeah.
door?
And we've been through this. So my dream was always basically I want every pet owner in the world, start with the UK, but ultimately the world, muhaha. And then I wanted them to have immediate access to a vet free of charge. That was kind of
Yeah,
my big picture idea. And that helps them to make their decisions. And my goal was to do this through vet practices. And anyone that's worked with the vet profession will know that whilst we are, a fabulous profession and one that I'm hugely proud to be part of, we're not the greatest at early adoption. But as with every sector, you will get the odd early adopter. And I still remember having a chat. It's a guy called Case Bennett, runs a practice called Beaver Vets. And I just had a chat with him and he was like, yeah, I get it. And that was our first practice. And then there was a lady called Pippa Adams at Powis Vets. Um, and then there were a couple of others in the next few months, Alderberg Vets, so the sort of village vets in Crosby. And then, sort of all of a sudden we had five vet practices within a sort of, this is still a 6 month window. So it wasn't
yeah,
rapid growth. But they gave us the opportunity. They took that chance, that proper early adopter chance of like, look, we're going to give you a bit of money. We see your product. We know it's a good product, even though it was back in the good old days when you could almost get away with launching something in a kind of MVP type fashion. Sadly, you can't get away with that so much nowadays, I think. But it's that whole piece of they saw it, they saw the value add. We didn't have data, we didn't have stats to throw with them. It was a hypothesis. It was we think that this will do this. It's going to cost us about this much. You're going to pay us this much. Are you happy with that? Can we get somebody to pay that? And it's such a critical thing in that early
yeah,
stage of business. Everyone can have a great product, but if no one's going to pay for it, then what's the point?
yeah. It's
So they
quite
gave us some
euphoric.
money.
It's quite a euphoric moment, isn't it, to go from idea to cash payment for idea. I think it's like a really big
Oh,
deal.
it's mad. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like, you sit there and we get caught up in the 20, 30, 40, 50 million pound exits. And everyone forgets to celebrate these little wins, like,
yeah,
your first client, that first client of that client that uses it and gives them a positive bit of feedback off the back of
yeah.
it. Tiny little milestones individually, but collectively they add up. Your first 5-star review online, your first
So, so,
1-star review online.
so how did you, for people listening, how did you get those first sort of 5 clients? Was it your own network? Was it, how do you do it?
Yeah, graft.
Yeah,
I think, kind of I think we live in a world now where everyone's sort of like, oh, this happened. It doesn't happen. Like, you sit there, it's like I was making phone calls, I was going to conferences, I was wearing my subtle orange hoodie at every opportunity, and talking to people, and I think there's for all of us, there's that innate fear of rejection. What if I talk to this about that practice and they say no, they don't want it? Well, no practice
yeah.
in the world will ever want it. And some will say no. But
Mm.
it was speaking to people, it was getting out, it was conferences, it was doing that and kind of going, what messaging works? What messaging doesn't work? Why do people want it? Why don't people want it? What do they understand about it?
Yeah.
And we're still learning that now, 4 years down the line of our first practice going live.
I think that's something I massively admire about you. I'm just going to call it networking. Like you network like crazy. I think a lot of founders don't, for reasons I don't understand. They kind of think like, I've set up the business, I've raised some cash, I can just sit behind my keyboard and do stuff on LinkedIn and do whatever. If I go to an event, you're always there, so you must be doing like 10 times more events than me. We met at an event, if you remember, at Tech Nation or Tech Climbers. I can't remember which one it was now. And I think like you're a beacon of how founders should grow their business, because you need to be there and everywhere. I say when in business I've worked in, I would go to the opening of an envelope, because there's normally somebody in that room that can introduce to somebody that is going to be of use to you. And I think you've got it nailed.
100%. And I think, it's that, I mean, it's one of them kind of brings a bit of sick to your mouth phrases, isn't it? But your network is your net worth.
Yeah,
And there's a chap called Ian, right, that I met 6, 7 years ago, and Ian's a cracking guy, and you watch how he leverages his network, but doesn't just use it. He brings value to those
yeah,
that
yeah,
he caters to. And I think we live in a society, not just in business, but generally, where people are very much obsessed with take.
yeah,
And I think, I think if you're going to events and speaking to people, and you're saying to them, "Oh, this is what I do," and so on and so forth, or this way, "Oh, I know someone. Let me introduce you to this person," and so on and so forth. And you never know how those conversations will come back full circle. Now, of course, if I'm at a veterinary event, I'm obsessed with speaking to vet practice owners.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's you never know who you're going to
Who's in
speak
the
to
room?
and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
their pain points are, what their network is.
And it's cool. You mentioned value there. I've just finished reading a book from somebody who I met through work. A guy called Aaron Norris, who's written a book called Sales Life, and in one of the chapters of the book, it's about always give value. So it's like the most successful people, entrepreneurs or salespeople, obsess over being value givers, not
Yeah.
takers, because you were talking about takers. So they just constantly give. And guess what? Great things happen because they get introduced to other people and one thing and another.
Yeah.
So we've kind of done the networking. You've got your product. You've got your first 5 customers. Tell us about the next step, because that's always difficult, isn't it? You've got some feedback. You've got a bit of revenue coming through the door, and then I don't know. I'm guessing you kind of go, I think we need a salesperson, or we need a something, or we need like, how do we scale this? What happened next?
Yeah, and I think especially when you're a founder operating in the business as we all should be very much in
Yeah,
those early days, we certainly made a few mistakes. Like, we potentially hired people too early into the business to focus on sales when our story hasn't been refined. We haven't necessarily had the data to back up our claims and things. So, we've made errors along the journey. And I think,
yeah,
hiring people with the wrong type of qualifications, hiring people with the wrong expertise, and you have to own those and go
yeah,
at some stage, you've got to go, right, okay, but for us, we've spent a long time trying to really refine what is our pitch? How do we grow this business? You need money, of course, and when you've not got enough money coming in to pay everybody, you need to raise more money.
Yeah.
The idea is that you make that gap as short as possible. I remember being at a talk and somebody goes, business is really, really simple. Make more money than you spend. And the sooner you make more money than you spend, the easier business becomes.
Yeah. That's life
Which
in general, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, as my Amazon account keeps reminding me. But that whole piece of like, look, okay, I need to go and speak to more and more practices, but I'm a finite resource because actually,
Yeah.
not only am I now, I've got a team that I've got to support and help to develop them and to bring the product forward and to engage with investors and to engage with board and different bits and pieces. And all of a sudden, the time that you could initially devote purely to
Yeah.
sales and building your thing out, you've actually got, well, one of your 5 days of the week that's available to you.
Yeah.
Um, so it's then going, right, okay, I need to get somebody in, I need to get somebody else talking to these things, and I need to, before they come in, make sure that that message is
Yeah.
refined and ready to go. Um,
I think you've said something there that will resonate with probably 99% of founders listening, which is a real common pattern I see. Founders think they're further ahead with things like product market fit and there's a demand for the products. They go out and they hire a salesperson or people. They normally hire somebody who's been brilliant, who's got a really good track record, and they come into their company and they fail.
mm,
And what normally happens is the founders go, this salesperson's rubbish. Right. And what you just said, so refreshing to hear, which is we didn't have our messaging right, we didn't get our pitch nailed down. So you're just giving, in effect, like nonsense to really skilled people who just repeat the nonsense because they don't know any better. And guess
yeah.
what? It fails and it costs a lot of money. So it's great to hear you actually talk about that and actually acknowledge it. Because a lot of people don't acknowledge it. They just go, we'll go and get another salesperson. This one will be
Mm.
better. And the pattern just repeats and repeats and repeats.
And I think
So,
it's very true, but equally, I can say that because of the benefit of hindsight, having
yeah,
done
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I think, it's why I would always say to every founder, get mentors, get advisors that will help you, and especially people that have done it before. Because when you turn around and say to them and go, I'm going to hire someone to do this to help us grow faster, they're going, do you really think your message is ready? And you're going to go, yeah, of course. And they're going to go, okay, I'm going to challenge you on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm going to
and
set you
and I
up
think you've got to own
with a
it.
call. Yeah, I'm going to set you up a call with one of my friends who's a vet. Sells to him, and I'll join the
Yeah,
call. And then you watch the call go haywire, and you're like, I don't think we're ready.
yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And I
Cool.
think, yeah, I think
Tell
you've
us
got to be honest
about.
with yourself about it.
Yeah, so that's the kind of like early stages of growing through sales. At what point did you go out for funding, and what was the trigger? Yeah,
The brutal honest is, oh look, the cash is running out. Let's go out for some funding. But I think we were fortunate in that at different stages, we've leveraged funding. Been very fortunate enough to be supported by the British Business Bank.
yeah,
Our very early stage, we raised money. Again, benefit of hindsight, would I have raised VC money when I did right at the start? Potentially not, but actually those
mm,
guys have helped us get to where we are now. And I think
yeah,
too many times we look backwards and we go, I shouldn't have done that. But
yeah.
actually, if you're still in the game and
Then it
you've still
worked.
got
Yeah,
enough of a slice of the pie and everything's working, then well, own it and say, well, that's
yeah,
worked. Would I do it that way again? Maybe not. I think for us, it was like, look, we need to keep the lights on. We need to grow the team. We need to put some fuel into different things. Um, I need to go and get some money to do that.
What's
Um,
so on that, Ben? What would you say for other if you were chatting to other founders now, and let's imagine the first time founders they've never done a fundraise, any advice on how you would go about doing that, or for them?
well, the early thing is networking. I think it's knowing, again, benefit of hindsight, knowing what you need and want the money for.
Hmm.
Like, I think too many of us go, oh, well, we'll run out of cash. I need to raise money.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine. I'm giving you money. What do you want to do with that money? Are you using that for growth revenue? Are you just going to get some salespeople in and build your revenues off the back of that? That's fine. Are you investing in your product? Are you investing in some other, marketing, development, whatever that is? What's the money going to be used for? And be clear on that before you're going out, because ultimately you need to be speaking to investors and going like, right, okay, this is where we're at. This is where I want to be in this long.
yeah,
Know your story. And I think too many founders are kind of like, this is kind of what I think. I need this
They
much.
want to hear, yeah, or what the VC needs to hear. There's nothing worse, is there? You're like, are you sure this is what you're doing, or are you
Yeah,
just VC spinning this?
and be realistic. Like, it's not going right. Okay, we're doing £100 a month revenue now, and in 6 months' time, we're going to be doing £250,000 a month.
I
With
think I've
this
seen
with
that
this
deck.
100 grand that you're giving us,
Yeah,
it's this gets us. And what stage does this bit of funding get to you?
yeah,
And then what is your plan after that? Do you want to raise again? Do you want to do a series? Of course, there will be curveballs on the
yeah.
journey, but like, are you speaking to the right stage investors? Is there anybody that you're speaking to that they can introduce you to? And I think kind of, just being honest with yourself around what you can realistically hope to achieve in this next 12 to 18-month window. And then
Cool.
after that, what's your next 12 to 18-month window look like?
And what worked best for you in terms of trying to find those investors? Because I think that's where a lot of founders struggle. They kind of go, I've done my deck, I've got my story straight, and then they kind of like do a send to every investor in the UK, and then they go, nobody's responding.
Yeah.
Like,
I
what's going
think
on?
I think it's your doing your homework in advance. So like for me, I knew because we brought our angels in later,
Yeah,
I knew I wanted additional sector expertise in order to help increase the presence, to leverage other people's networks. I don't know everybody in our field, and these people have run successful businesses, they've had successful exits, they understand bits of the processes, whether that's governance or different bits and pieces that I don't know. So it's
yeah,
bringing in that value piece. So that sector expertise, but also then people, it's engaging with people appropriately. Like, not just like add you on LinkedIn. Hiya, I'm raising. Can we have a chat? Build a rapport with people. Actually, adopt this old-fashioned endeavor of picking up a phone and phoning someone's office and say, "Could I have a chat with such and such?"
yeah, yeah,
And 9 times out of 10, the answer will be, "He's in a meeting. She's in a meeting. Unavailable to chat. Can you send us an email?" And most of them won't get back in touch with you. But are they
yeah,
are they investing in the sector that you're, like take River
yeah,
Capital investing in us, for example. They were looking for companies that were data rich,
yeah.
um, that were Liverpool based. So, as
Tick,
a data rich
tick.
Liverpool based company, great.
Yeah,
It's worth us having a conversation.
yeah.
And that's been a huge value add
And stage,
into us.
yeah, and stage is key, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool. And I guess what I would say in that investor thing, don't underestimate that. You'll do your best work as a founder in the room with a VC or an investor, won't you? Versus on an email. So go to events and just bump into
yeah,
people and go like, do you know anyone that invests at our stage of business that's interested in our sector? And 8 times out of 10, somebody will go, yeah, I do actually.
yeah.
Like, here's the details. So I'm gonna bring it forward now as we start to ebb towards the end of the pod. Tell us about the future and the future challenges, like what's going on in your head right now. So you've got to a stage where you've got a healthy number of users, you've got revenue coming in. Sounds like you're in profit. What's next and what's keeping you awake?
Yeah, so for us, it's my role shifts kind of, or has shifted and will continue to shift in that, I go from being on the cold face phoning practices all the time to actually bringing people into the business that I trust to grow and scale it. I mean, Sarah, my head of operations, Wonder Woman. Kate in our product department built a fantastic team. Chris, our CTO, like just great, great people. My
Yeah,
job now is to go, right, how can I help you get the most out of what you want? Where do you want to be? What does VidiVet need to do for you? For the company, obviously it's growth. It's kind of taken us from now, where we're sat in low seven figures of revenue to go and right, okay, how can we multiply that? How
yeah,
can we build our story out, evidence it more so that I can go to my sales and marketing team, right? There's the data guys, go and grow things, go, how can we deliver shareholder value and
yeah,
return ultimately? So for us, really, it's a 24-month window now. And that's the next thing that I've sent is going, right, okay, we're going to 5x in this window of time.
yeah,
And this is how we do that. This is the plan. And I think too many of us don't have that playbook. And we don't sit there as like, well, okay, well, we're going to go from here to here, but we've not really mapped it out. We know exactly what we need to do to get from where we are now to where we want to be in 24 months' time. And if we do what we need to do and we hire the right people to deliver those, then there's no reason we shouldn't hit that. My job is to go, right, okay, let's make sure we've got all of those pieces of the puzzle
Yeah, yeah.
working cohesively, um, that we hit our targets. And it's as we've both
Sounds
said
great.
previously, it's easy when you put it on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it sounds like you're entering the phase of empowerment and autonomy and probably higher accountability because you're going to have to let your fingers off the steering wheel a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's that bit we talked about my son going to school. It's that bit where you go from being with your kid every day,
Yeah.
involved in everything, to going, right, okay, I'm trusting others with you now. Please go well.
And if you, is there any sort of advice, like final advice, or any thoughts you've got that you would share with other founders, like good or bad, like something that's worked for you really well that you would recommend others do, or something that you tried that went absolutely horrendously wrong?
Um, I think it's it's again it's a bit of a cliche. Hire slow, fire fast.
I like that.
Um, it's like sort of wait until you desperately. It sounds horrible, and certainly in an age where mental health is important, wait until you're almost broken, until you need to get people
Mm,
in, because that cash is your lifeblood.
yeah,
And if you don't need to spend something, then do not spend it. Um, and I think it's using that and then saying, right, okay, look, if someone's working, great, listen to them. I think, um, as someone who struggles with brevity, the other piece of advice I was given that was really, really good is you've got two ears and one mouth. Use them in that ratio. Listen to the people that you're speaking to. Tell them what you're doing, but listen back twice as hard.
yeah,
What messages are in there, and tell the truth.
yeah. No,
Like,
great.
you'll get found out, you'll get cut short, and you'll trip up on kind of um, false truths or mistruths. And I think if something's going well, tell people. If something isn't going well, tell people.
Yeah,
Not necessarily everybody, but
yeah,
tell the important people, the right people, and because actually you'll be amazed how many of those will offer help and support
yeah.
within that. And
No,
I
I
think
like that.
finally, give yourself a break. You will cock stuff up monumentally, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
And even if this business goes bust, you will have learned something from that that you can carry on into your next one. Um, again, so many of these things are cliches, but they're cliches for a reason.
yeah.
Um, but
No, I
yeah,
like that,
and,
Ben.
and trust your gut.
Yeah, I agree on all those things. I think the my favourite one of those is be very open, transparent. I think be vulnerable, transparent, open, work hard, are all those things you were kind of you were talking about then, and you'll go a long way because people will be attracted to that because it's a very attractive quality or set of qualities. Ben, you've been ace. We've learnt loads about VidiVet and your career and your how you've scaled the business from zero to profitability into seven figures. So we look forward to seeing what happens next. Thanks for joining us and catch you soon.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks, mate. See
You're
ya.
welcome.